Why journey again to Winthrop, with all the world to roam? Perhaps it's the wave-lashed shore, the great rocks dashed in foam, the seagulls gliding with outstretched wings as they soar in trackless flight, or possibly the lighthouse gleam with its flash through the darkest night. The great cliff has its wondrous view, the sea its magic spell, the salty lake beside the marsh, its pebbly beach as well. The tidal bar, with its crescent curve, which forms a rocky quay, the swirling gut with its mighty side as it sweeps the outer bay. Each bit of town, each hill and cove, combines in harmony. That's why we go to Winthrop, Winthrop by the sea.
Hi, Sylvia Plath is not really one of the more uplifting poets, but she's a Winthrop poet. For 10 years, she lived here with her mother and father till her dad died. Her grandmother lived on Point Shirley, and she had a great deal of respect for her grandmother's stoicism. She wrote a poem called Point Shirley as a tribute to her grandmother's tenacity in fighting the sea that we all know can come back at us. From Water Tower Hill to the brick prison, the shingle booms, bickering under the sea's collapse. Snowcakes break and welter. This year, the gritted wave leaps the seawall and drops onto a bier of quahog chips, leaving a salty mash of ice to whiten in my grandmother's sand yard. She is dead, whose laundry snapped and froze here, who kept house against what the sluggish, rutted sea could do. Squall waves once danced ship timbers in through the cellar window. A thresh-tailed lance shark littered in the geranium bed. Such collusion of mulish elements. She wore her broom straws to the nub. 20 years out of her hand, the house still hugs in each drab stucco socket the purple egg stones from Great Head's knob to the filled-in gut. The sea, in its cold gizzard, ground those rounds. Nobody wintering now, behind the planked-up windows where she set her wheat loaves and apple cakes to cool. What is it survives, grieves, so battered, obstinate, spit of gravel? The waves spewed relics clicker masses in the wind. Gray waves the stub-necked eiders ride, a labor of love, and that labor lost. Steadily the sea eats at Point Shirley. She died blessed, and I come by bones, only bones, pawed and tossed, a dog-faced sea. The sun sinks under Boston, bloody red. I would get from these dry, papped stones the milk your love instilled in them. The black ducks dive, and though your graciousness might stream and I contrive, grandmother, stones are nothing of home to that spumious dove. Against both bar and tower the black sea runs. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Poetry on WCAT. My name is Marilyn Regan, and I'm going to share a poem today by Thich Nhat Hanh called Alone Again. Alone again I'll go on with bent head, but knowing the immortality of love. And on the long, rough road both sun and moon will shine. Promise me this day, while the sun is just overhead, Even as they strike you down with mountains of hate and violence, remember, brother, men is not our enemy. Just your pity, just your love, invincible, limitless. Hatred will never let you face the beast in man. And one day when you face this beast alone, your courage intact, your eyes kind, out of your smile will bloom a flower, and those who love you will behold you across 10,000 worlds of dying and birth. Alone again I'll go on with bent head, but knowing the immortality of love. And on the long, rough road, both sun and moon will shine, lighting my way. Thank you.
Mending wall. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen groundswell under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them and made repair where they have left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the yelping dogs. The gaps I mean, no one has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time we find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go, to each the boulders that have fallen to each. And some are loaves, and some so nearly balls we have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game, one on a side. It comes to little more. There where it is we do not need the wall. He is all pine, and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines, I tell him. He only says, good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly, and I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand like an old stone savage armed. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only in the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well, he says again, good fences make good neighbors.
Today I'm going to read Baseball. The author is unknown, and here we go. Fresh cut grass, short and green, the smell in the air. Do you know what I mean? Red clay dirt around the field. Good place to run. Go, don't yell. White chalk lines drawn out so straight from third to home. I just can't wait. Ball and glove to make the catch. Pop fly or grounder. This hit is not much. Ball to bat, swing hard, don't miss. No game on the earth is better than this. Bye.
Hi, this is Joanne Hillman. I'm coming to you from Winthrop Beach, and I'm about to read a poem to you by Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver is a Pulitzer Prize winning poet, and she spent a lot of time in Provincetown. She lived there and spent time around the salt marshes at Herring Cove and Race Point Beach, and she was so inspired by nature, and that comes through in her poems, as you'll see in this one entitled Why I Wake Early. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who make the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories and into the windows of even the miserable and crotchety. Best preacher that ever was. Dear star, that just happens to be where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness and kindness.
Hello, my name is Walter Alston, and here is a poem that I wrote a couple of days ago. From slumber. What we value, we hide, not sure from whom. Why is there music? Why are there words that force the heart from hiding? We just attended to Blossom Deary's rendering of Gershwin's Someone to Watch Over Me. She, of unacknowledged talent, is as much a master of phrasing as Sinatra. My heart tells me so. And then there is Mary Oliver. Dear Mary. She spent decades on Cape Cod. Almost daily she went for walks in the woods, along the marshes, taking notes. She wrote of dark ponds, white lilies, tender, fragile deer, grasshoppers, berries, trees, the shore, of sleeping, waking, prayer, death, and more. What amazes, what astonishes me, is that her word assemblages, her constructs of these natural subjects on paper, somehow become hammer and pry bar that crack open my defenses, that leaves my heart blinking in the startling brightness, wondering, what just happened? They are only words, yet here I stand, with frisson, both physical and emotional. No, I am not telling you to read Mary Oliver, but I am telling you to find what does move you. How else will you accept that you are alive? Thank you.
Gone from My Sight by Reverend Luther F. Beecher. I am standing upon the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails to the moving breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until at length she hangs like a speck of white cloud just where the sea and sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, "There, she is gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight, that is all. She is just as large in mast, hull, and spar as she was when she left my side. And she is just as able to bear her load of living freight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone says, "There, she is gone," there are other eyes watching her coming and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, "Here she comes." And that is dying.
Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediment. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. A star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although its height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved.
This is a poem by Jenny Joseph called Warning, and keep in mind that she was 29 years old when she wrote this. When I am an old woman, I shall wear purple with a red hat, which doesn't go and doesn't suit me, and I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals and say we've no money for butter. I shall sit down on the pavement when I am tired and gobble up samples of shops and press alarm bells, run my stick along the public railings and make up for the sobriety of my youth. I shall go out in my slippers in the rain, pick flowers in other people's gardens, and learn to spit. You can wear terrible shirts, grow old, more fat, and eat 3 pounds of sausages at a go, or only bread and pickles for a week, and hoard pens and pencils, beer mats, and things in boxes. But now we must have clothes that keep us dry, and pay our rent, and not swear in the street, and set a good example for the children. We must have friends to dinner and read the papers. But maybe I ought to practice a little now, so people who know me are not too shocked and surprised when suddenly I am old and start to wear purple. My favorite color.
Someplace to Rachel. And a little background on this, if I may. In the early 1970s, I was living in Washington, D.C. as part of the Community for Creative Nonviolence, simply called CCNV. And I would get gigs speaking at coffee houses, bars, and the occasional college or university. And it was all part of CCNV's outreach. Attempts to bring awareness. First, it was awareness to the Vietnam War, and later in D.C. to the brutal conditions of the homeless population. But sometimes my appearances were only personal. Reading poetry I'd either written as a child or a young adult. And it was at one of these personal times, a time when I was feeling overpowered with loneliness and confusion while reading in a coffee house or bar just off DuPont Circle, that I met Rachel. Rachel was a military brat whose dad worked at the Pentagon, and just saying hello to me could have caused all kinds of problems at home for her. But she did say hello. And she said hello at a time when I desperately needed someone to say hello. And I know it was at a time when we both needed a friendly hello. And so this is called Someplace to Rachel. I'm balancing on a bar stool, caught in a solitary light, reading my poetry in a coffee shop just off DuPont Circle. The night is cold, snow falling in quiet wisp like little wintry feathers searching for angels lost in hell. You're listening to me, tilting your head just so to one side, chin cradled in the palm of your hand, arm curving to rest on the wooden table where a glass of wine sits waiting, untouched. Your ring sparkles, held in the soft glow of Tiffany, like a beacon, guiding the way to you. It clings close to your finger, afraid of slipping away, afraid to be lost, lost in the dark, lost in the cold, lost in the lonely. We spent that night and more together, clinging close to each other in frightened desperation, afraid of slipping away, afraid to be lost, lost in the dark, lost in the cold, lost in the lonely. One morning you were gone, leaving a picture. You're tilting your head just so to one side, chin resting, cradled in the palm of your hand, arm curving away, leaving me like your wine, untouched. Your final words fading now in my memory like the image you left. If you ever need or want a warm place to stay, you know where to find me. That was more than 50 years ago. I have never looked for you, even when I was cold and lonely. I don't remember the name of the coffee shop, and I've lost the old poetry. But I do remember you and the ring, and how you would tilt your head just so to one side. I still have the picture, and the memory of a cold, snowy night in Washington, tucked away safely, someplace.
This is called The Anthem, and it's by Leonard Cohen. And it's very appropriate for today. It says, "The birds they sing at the break of day. Start again, I hear them say. Don't dwell on what has passed away or what is yet to be. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in."
Barbara Bishop are out here at the high school baseball field, and we're going to give our rendition of Casey at the Bat, which was written by Ernest Lawrence Thayer. I want to first of all tell everyone that even though I'm wearing Boston Red Sox hat and sweatshirt and whatnot, Casey did not play for the Boston Red Sox. So let me make sure that everyone doesn't think that it was Casey who played for the Boston Red Sox who might have struck out that memorable day. And he didn't play for the Red Sox, he played for the Mudville Nine, as you will quickly hear, and I know that so many of you probably have heard this beautiful rendition before. If I may, the outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2 with but one inning more to play. And when Cooney died at first and Barrows did the same, a sickly silence fell upon the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to that hope which springs eternal in the human breast. They thought if only Casey could get a whack at that. We put up even money now with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, as did also Jimmy Blake. And the former was a Lulu, and the latter was a cake. So upon that stricken multitude grim melancholy sat, for there seemed but little chance of Casey's getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive a single, to the wonderment of all. And Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted, and men saw what had occurred, there was Jimmy safe at second, and Flynn a hugging third. Then from 5,000 throats and more, there rose the lusty yell. It rumbled through the valley. It rattled in the dell. It knocked upon the mountain and recoiled upon the flat. For Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was an ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was a pride in Casey's bearing and a smile on Casey's face. And when responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his cap. No stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. Just like that. 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped them on his shirt. And then while the wreathing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance gleamed in Casey's eye. A snare curled Casey's lip. Probably something like that. And now the leather-covered sphere came hurtling through the air. And Casey stood a-watching in a haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman, the ball, unheeded, sped. That ain't my style, said Casey. Strike one, the umpire said. From the benches with people, there went up a muffled roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern, distant shore. Kill him! Kill the umpire! Shouted someone in the stand. And it's likely they'd have killed him had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult. He bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once more the steroid flew. But Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, "Strike two!" "Fraud!" cried the maddened thousands. In echo answered fraud. But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold, and they saw his muscles strain. And they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. The snare from Casey's lip, his teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go. and now the air is shattered by Casey's blow. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed our rendition of Casey at the Bat.